Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy DeYoung. Welcome to Prophecy Today video. On November the 19th, a historic event took place in Brussels, Belgium, as the European Union named its two most important leaders. The permanent president that was given to the present Belgium Prime Minister, Herman Van Rompuy, and the foreign policy chief, the Baroness Catherine Ashton. Out of England, these were more pragmatic, less-known leaders over people like Tony Blair, very popular, charismatic world leader who had been destined, everybody thought, to be the president of the European Union. Rob Congdon tells us exactly how all the intricacies worked out for this vote.
It was, if you want to say, trading off by giving up on the presidential position and accepting for a Brit the foreign minister position. So it was, if you want to call it a compromise, it was a solution for all of them, and that's the net result. And former Prime Minister Blair is not going to be the president, obviously, and now time will show what position he does really hold. They really don't want a high-profile person to detract, if you will, from, first of all, the nation leaders and from President Barroso of the Commission. So they've picked a man that's very acceptable to everybody. His name is Herman Van Rompuy, and he is currently Belgian Prime Minister, but he's only been that for 1 year. So he's quite unknown. I would say he's even quite unknown throughout much of Europe.
Colonel Bob Maginnis, normally at Washington, D.C., is in Germany, and I talked with him about the impact of these leaders and the establishment of the European Union on the geopolitical scene.
I think it's important, Jimmy, that the Europeans are getting a single voice rather than a bunch of voices from each of the independent countries. So if, in fact, this is to be useful, they'll have to almost be the United States of Europe, which, of course, could have major ramifications for sovereignty over here. But we'll have to wait and see whether or not all these sovereign countries are willing to give up some of their voice and some of their independence for this to really work.
David Dolan covers the Middle East for us. The permanent president, Van Rompuy, made the statement that indeed Turkey would never be a member state of the European Union. But how does this new leadership affect Israel?
Well, it does, Jimmy, and basically everything that the European Union does or doesn't do and the positions it takes is of great interest to Israel. It's rapidly becoming Israel's main export area. The United States is still a little bit higher, but the European Union is a close second. So economically, the relationship is very important. There are many Israelis, according to the polls, that want to see Israel join the European Union. Now, that doesn't seem any more likely than Turkey getting in. But, Jimmy, everything that happens there is of great interest. Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel would at least like to be an associate member of the European Union. In other words, not a formal full member, but have an extra tier added, as it were, to its current relationship.
With the ratification of the Lisbon Treaty and the election of these two European Union leaders, we see in place a major force on the world scene today. Now, I believe a historic event that sets the stage for a prophetic fulfillment of a scenario that can be found in God's Word. Since the days of the fall of the old Roman Empire in 476 A.D., political and religious leaders have been trying to revive it. Charlemagne in the late 700s, king of the Franks, on Christmas Day 800 AD, the Pope crowned Charlemagne as the emperor of the Romans. Otto I, the German ruler, in 962 AD, he founded the Holy Roman Empire. Napoleon came along and he crushed that. Napoleon had a desire to see the United States of Europe, and he crowned himself the emperor in line with the Caesars. Bismarck, who was the Iron Chancellor of Germany in the 1870s, started the Second Reich, and that's the second empire in the world, and then he appointed Wilhelm to be the emperor, the Kaiser. Kaiser in German, of course, is Caesar, and they were moving along to try to establish, again, the old Roman Empire. Mussolini in 1921, between World War I and World War II, he occupied Rome. He spoke of its destiny, and by 1936, he had captured everything from Rome over to Ethiopia. In fact, Adolf Hitler said at that time Mussolini had revived the Roman Empire. Well, those, of course, were efforts, not what really was to accomplish the goal. But on March the 25th, 1957, a group of European leaders met in the Seven Hills city of Rome. They signed the Treaty of Rome. They established the common market of Europe, and indeed that has evolved over the years into the European Union today. Today we have in place a political governmental operation, the Parliament of the European Union, the Parliament of Europe. They have a common currency, the euro, and they're now calling for a military might. NATO is what they use for the military now, but they want their own military to be that major force between China in the Pacific and the United States in the Atlantic. We're going to have to watch as that continues to develop. I tell you, everything we've talked about as it relates to the European Union today, and especially with these new leaders in place, is the same as the old Roman Empire. And remember, the Mediterranean Union, those 17 member states that will be integrated into the European Union in the not-too-distant future, will give us the exact geographical location of the old Roman Empire. The book of Daniel, chapter 7, Daniel is revealed the Gentile world powers, the Babylonian Empire, and then following that would be the Medo-Persian Empire, the Grecian Empire, the Roman Empire. Those are the four major Gentile world powers. And in chapter 7 and verse 7 of Daniel, it talks about the old Roman Empire having 10 horns. Verse 24 translates that for us. It's talking about 10 kings or 10 regions coming together to revive the old Roman Empire in the future. It will come together, it says. Over in Revelation chapter 17 and verse 12 talks about those 10 horns again. They're the ones that work with the Antichrist to set up the false church in the city of Rome during the first 3.5 years of the tribulation period. That's the revived Roman Empire. It talks about the beast that rises up out of the sea in chapter 13 of Revelation, verse 1, as having 10 horns. Well, that's the Antichrist, the beast out of the sea, one of 27 names for the Antichrist to lead this revived Roman Empire into the future. In fact, Daniel 9:27 says that this Antichrist, the leader of the revived Roman Empire, will put in place a treaty in the Middle East and help to establish a temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Before all of this comes to complete fulfillment, the rapture of the church. That can happen at any moment. And having said that, nothing left for me to say except let's keep looking up until